Sweet.
I'm telling you. You know, it's kind of crazy times. I mean, when you look at things that are going on, we had wildfires here a couple of years ago that got really close to us.
Right.
I can literally remember when they flew in the big 727 or whatever it was to drop that chemical in Montgomery County.
Yeah, the powder chemical.
Yeah,
or whatever.
the purple K or whatever they use it to put the fires out with.
Right.
And that's pretty impressive to see that big jet fly over and make that drop so close to the ground. But California's going through that again. They got 2 big blazes going on, which I'm sure y'all seen in the news.
Yeah, I didn't even realize it was 2 until you told me earlier before we started.
Well, I kept hearing about the campfire blaze up in Butte County.
Yeah.
And, you know, that's kind of a remote area. That's north of Sacramento. It's kind of a remote area up there.
Uh-huh.
And on the other side of the mountain range.
Right.
And I've been up there quite a few times. It's actually very beautiful, but it's very verdant. There's a lot of trees and stuff up there.
I'm going to say it's not very picturesque right now.
No, it's not. Well, it's, you know, it's funny how people, when they look at wildfires, I mean, they happen all the time. Generally, they're started by lightning storms.
Yeah. I didn't realize the more I go back and look at the news when we were talking about this is just how prevalent wildfires are for California.
Oh, California, Montana, Wyoming, everywhere, Colorado, anywhere there's mountains and trees, Utah, Idaho, all that. They happen. It's Mother Nature's way, generally. I mean, it's been going on for years. The problem is we're populating these areas now that are getting these big fires. Right. I mean, California, like I said, they have one in Campfire up north by Paradise and all that. Then they have the Woolsey fire down in Ventura in L.A. County, where you're getting now by Calabasas, and you're getting in some really expensive real estate there with a lot of actors and movie stars and musicians live there. Mm-hmm. And I think Gerard Butler's house burnt.
Social media can be kind of comical.
It can,
because some of the somebody can take an interview like with, I think it was Gerard Butler, who was talking about, what he had lost. And it was a real loss.
Okay? Oh yeah, big,
The fact that, his house cost, however much versus somebody else who has a home that's only worth, maybe 10% of whatever his value or whatever that how all this person got from it was so these actors are basically going on TV and telling people just how many assets they lost in this fire. And I'm like, that's your takeaway from this?
Yeah. Well, and a lot of that's going to be the reporter, I think. I mean, the reporter's going to go up and ask them those questions. And it's funny. I haven't seen any actors really acting out ignorant over this.
No.
Because I think for the most part, they know what's going on with everybody around them in their neighborhoods.
Well, the fact that somebody can afford something,
right,
because they were a success in their career, is not a sin. It's not.
No, not at all. And what's sad though is the cost to rebuild in California is going to be so much greater than the asset that you have because of the regulations you now have to fall under.
Yeah,
for new home construction out there, which is. I don't know. I'm on the fence with that because I feel like if you own a piece of property,
you own it.
You own it,
right?
And if you decide to build a piece of property inside a subdivision or community that has community standards, then and you've agreed to do that, then you're basically obligated now to maintain that. I don't know. You see that fire, you see it going on, like I said, in the south and the north part of town, and you're seeing 2 different sides of it because right now they're at the campfire. The whole the legal arguments have already started about liability of the fire because PG&E is right in the middle of this.
Yeah, because I told you about the group of lawyers that filed a lawsuit yesterday. Basically claiming negligence on their part for not maintaining that right away and preventing stuff like that. But the kind of the underlying. Well,
they have the Santa Ana winds right now, and they're pretty. This is the time of year for that. And I've lived in Southern California. I've lived in Northern California for a brief period of time, and I want to tell you, it's pretty intense. They used to keep us in from the playgrounds because of the wind, because it would bring in these huge dust storms during the dry part of the year. It was like, I mean, I'm not telling you anything you haven't seen in the Middle East,
right?
It's like that.
Now, the closest we did have, we had this incident happen, 2011. We were training up to it was what they called a pre-deployment training that our state requires for the units that are leaving here to go to do an overseas mission. So where we were at, we were like maybe 4 or 5 days into a 3-week session that we had to be at this training base.
Right.
And we were in an area that fires happen. And actually, the fires happen over in West Texas a lot more than they do over here. So where we were at, we were on a base that was part of a forestry area that was notorious for being a tinderbox.
Right, like lightning struck fires. Yeah.
And I forget what I don't even remember what the trigger was for this thing. All I remember is while we were kind of embracing the suck during this training event, and one of the last things that our command told us is we're still waiting on a decision to figure out whether we're going to suspend this training and pull y'all out of there, and you'll just have to do this training on another day. Right. Because no matter what,
well, they're not going to put your life at risk for that.
Right.
Yeah. No doubt.
Now, I can tell you this was the one time where everybody that was doing this did not want to have to go back to day 0 and start this crap again.
Right.
So fortunately, they were able to manage the fire, keep it away from the training areas that we were going to be at.
Right.
But not too long ago, I went through that area driving up to Austin and saw some of the areas that were affected. I was with a buddy of mine taking his son to one of these football camps for University of Texas. So we went on another side of the camp.
Oh, I remember this. This was a year or so ago, wasn't it?
No, this is 2011.
Oh, okay.
And actually, there's been another
you went to
fire.
Austin, yeah. You went to Austin during another one, yeah.
Now that I think about it, there might have been another fire in that kind of area, because that area is kind of notorious for this kind of crap.
Anytime you run up the river, bass tripping all the way up, yeah.
So, so when I was driving through there, I saw just how bad that fire. I mean, you had acreage that were just freaking destroyed.
Well, you have fallout coming through the atmosphere. What people don't realize is, so the wind's blowing the fire.
Yeah, that was the other thing.
The fire's eating up the fuel, and then you get all the embers and residuals that are in this huge cloud mass that are moving north, and you're getting all the toxic gases, because everything that burns puts off a toxic gas. It's just the way it is.
Right.
And it's usually a big cloud that impacts the environment in many, many ways. So California is not new to fires. There's kind of a lot of political wrangling going on. Now, I will tell you, neither one of us are fire experts.
Right.
Okay,
we just know it's hot.
It creates a lot of things. We've experienced some of them, localized, and so you kind of get a feel for it, but you don't get a feel for the scale. Because the scale in California is actually very large. We're talking hundreds of thousands of acres being burnt. Many, many homes burnt. And there's been loss of life, which is really sad in these events. And what people don't realize is that when these fires come up, they come up faster than you can imagine, especially with the wind blowing them.
Right.
I remember years ago in our neighborhood here, I live up by the Champions area, and there was all these homes had cedar shingled roofs. They're all wooden cedar shingled roofs.
Fires jumping from roof to roof.
Well, what had ended up happening? A guy's garage caught on fire. It was a 2-story garage.
Right.
And the wind was blowing heavy that day.
Right.
And so if you were to look at it as the crow flies, or as the wind was blowing, it literally lit 14 other homes on fire in that wind tunnel that it was blowing through. And so we were helping people take furniture out of their house while it was burning, heirloom stuff. I mean, it was crazy how fast that fire was moving, and they could not get ahead of it. Because when you call out a response to a house fire, it's usually a single alarm, it may turn into a multiple alarm, but generally a house fire doesn't require all that.
Right.
But when it started leapfrogging through the neighborhood, it went almost 14 blocks into the neighborhood. That's how bad it was.
Wow.
Yeah, it was really bad. So those things pick up quick, because you've got an ember being fanned by wind. Mm-hmm. And that's all it needs is oxygen and fuel.
Actually, because I was going to say, really, if you think about it, it's jumping from fuel source to fuel source.
That's all it's doing. And so, so you've got this fire out there, and the two differences between them, anyway, is one of them's in a rural area, and it's going to be mostly agricultural type or forestry type or ranch and farmer type people that are living up there with animals and livestock.
Right.
And then you have wildlife, and that's where you really see the impact. A lot of times, wildlife will try to vacate an area unless they're cut off. Mm-hmm. If they're cut off by either geography or fire, they do a pretty good job of moving away from those areas.
Sure. They're
still lost because, you got young ones or old ones that can't make it through. And then you've got the captured livestock.
See, the will to survive isn't just to just reside in man.
Right. And the part of it is a lot of people will leave and their livestock is still penned up. And that's the part that's just hard to deal with because I don't know. I know for me as a person that used to raise animals, you always were looking for the well-being of all of them.
Right.
And you were going to do everything you can to get them out. I noticed when we had fires here, the local Lowe's would allow you to put up corrals and they would put all these animals in there, and which was really kind of cool. So, you got communities coming together making these things happen. But what you end up seeing happen, and moving to the southern fire as well, is you have looters, people that use this as an opportunity to enter an area that people have vacated, and they use it for their advantage. I mean,
they think it's unguarded.
Unguarded for sure, and you have them breaking in. I mean, California, the local police and the highway patrol have made a lot of arrests in this last few days over that kind of stuff.
When you think about, Pink, the singer.
Yeah, Corey Hart and her, his wife,
the social media is all abuzz because he made this, he put out this warning letting people know that, hey, if you are in an area that you don't belong in and you're here to loot, I'm letting you know right now, we're going to be shooting.
Right.
And if you look at, for the most part, you're looking at a demographic. If you're some sort of celebrity, you probably follow the drum that says, guns are bad, blah, blah, blah.
So, and I hear that, but what's really funny is they're all protected by armed guards.
Yeah.
Or some kind of security deterrent. So you have to ask yourself, do they really believe that guns are really bad for you?
Right.
Or is it a line they have to just say to stay popular and mainstream? And we're coming down to a part where national emergencies are going to separate bullshit from the reality. Okay? Because you got a guy, basically, who's a BMXer, runs tattoo stores. And he's married to a musician.
Yeah.
Okay?
Very well-known musician.
Right. So, you have this thing where they live in a gated community. Okay? You have where they have security guards that are armed, and they probably use firearms themselves for recreation and entertainment.
Yeah, they just don't let anybody know about it.
Yeah, they don't advertise it. They don't run around showing it off or putting videos
until their world starts burning around them.
And this is the very reason why you were given the right to protect yourself. This is the very thing. It's not during normal things when life is supposed to be normal. It's when things go bad, and you have people that exploit your bad luck, and they're going to take advantage of that. And so what you have is people breaking in, stealing computers, memorabilia, a lot of heirlooms, stuff that would have value to somebody somewhere else.
Yeah, and
either online or wherever they're doing with it.
I do kind of wonder, if it takes this kind of an event to get somebody to change their mind about a particular topic. I'm not looking at it from, what political party do you hang your hat on.
It doesn't amount to that,
in your world, what's right and what's wrong.
Yeah.
And that's what it boils down to. It doesn't boil down to, because as far as I'm concerned, both parties at the end of the day end up at the same bar drinking and laughing with each other.
Well, I'll give you a prime example. We talked about this earlier. We have a friend that she's a doctor for the VA. Mm-hmm. And so she put, and we use social media a lot, and you'll post something out there that's thought provocative. Mm-hmm. And she put a picture out there of a pickup truck with a shotgun and a rifle in the rifle rack.
Right.
Saying, remember the days when you were able to leave these in your vehicles unlocked and nobody would touch your stuff.
I certainly do.
Yeah, I do. I grew up with that. I mean, literally leave the keys in the vehicle, roll the window down because nobody would touch it. Mm-hmm. So a lot of comments were being made about, you can't do that anymore. People are more violent now, and they're more of an opportunistic type nature to where you're paying their gain kind of thing.
Right.
So I made a comment on there about we're dealing with a different animal nowadays. Right. I mean, we're dealing with the perception that life doesn't have the value that it used to have.
Right.
And I said perhaps it's because you have the entertainment and the news media that are basically glorifying breaking the law, killing and harming people. Mm-hmm. It's okay to disobey the police and stuff like this. So one of her friends that lives in the East Coast jumps in and he says, well, I couldn't disagree with you more. Your perception might be this and your perception might be that. So, it's funny is like the dude's clearly not living in the real world. He hasn't apparently faced something where his life may have been threatened by somebody taking advantage of him. I chose not to argue with the guy. I was like, you know what? I'm not going to do this. It's a friend, a friend's friend, and I'm just not going to. Yeah, I'm going to tread lightly on it. But the more I thought about it, I was sitting there thinking, it's funny. What if his neighborhood was on fire, and this was happening to him? Would he just basically open the door and let you have what you wanted?
Right.
Would he fight for it? And would he change his mind afterwards? Because for me, I look at it this way. This is my house. This is my property. And if you're entering it thinking you're going to take stuff because I'm having something bad happen, you got another guest coming.
Right.
And so we live in a society now where you have celebrities that are speaking up, saying they're going to do what it takes to protect their property. And it's funny because it's the same people that will turn around and tell you as a citizen that you don't have the right to do so. And I find that very... I think Mother Nature is the great equalizer in this one. You know what I mean?
It's one of those things where I'm like, okay, a week ago when you were preaching, probably a viewpoint that was counter to what I believe.
Let's take a mass shooting, for example. We've had another mass shooting within the last few weeks.
Right.
In a club. And it wasn't in California, wasn't it?
I believe so.
Yeah, so it was a shooting in
Thousand Oaks.
Thousand Oaks, yeah. So you had the shooting. So they're all out there with their mouthpieces saying, guns are the problem, and this is that, and this is that, and we should do our best to get rid of guns so this doesn't happen. And then when it ends up happening, a fire kicks up, their neighborhood's burning down, their house is burning down, they're trying to protect what's left of their property, and looters are coming in, and then they're saying, well I'm going to use a gun to protect myself. Okay, so you have the classic argument here, okay? Mm-hmm. And I always err to the side of human nature. Okay, because human nature is what creates this problem. It's not a law. Okay, right. It's somebody's will or desire to not follow the law and act right in public or amongst other human beings. It's what it basically boils down to. This isn't a podcast about Second Amendment or mass shootings, but most of these shootings since 2009 have happened in gun-free zones. Mm-hmm. So you have to ask yourself, okay. They're not going to go into the lion pit to play ball, okay? They're going to go to a playground with a bunch of kids to play ball because the lion's going to protect his territory. Kids are left unprotected for the most part, okay? We protect jewelry stores, we protect our homes, but we don't protect our kids,
right? For
the most part. At least that's the way I view it. And so you're living in a society where that how would you say it? That conflicting argument keeps coming up when it's really right there in front of you. Okay, your basic right is to be able to protect you and your family and your property against anybody that's trying to take it from you.
My deal about with these looters in general, and this is where I kind of go. I'll tend to lean more vigilante in a way.
Sure,
only because. Okay, so you have the bad actor who's going to go to an area where they think that they will have the advantage over the victim. Mm-hmm. So, so I say let them venture off at their own peril.
Right.
And hopefully, in my sick world in my head, is that there's somebody there to greet them with a punishment that is so exacting and final.
Right.
That basically all you did was you were basically an example or a martyr to the kind of mindset that we want to eradicate.
Sure. Oh, and I completely agree with that. And I think that you're going to start seeing people take more and more of a hard stance against that, because I think they're getting tired of being preached at about it. Mm-hmm. I think they're getting tired of being told what they can't do while other people continue to do what the hell they want to do.
Right.
And contrary to a lot of trollers' beliefs, people are a lot more violent, and they're a lot more brutal to their fellow mankind. Mm-hmm. And the great equalizer is the fact that you can use something to deter them, whether it's a car, mm-hmm. a crowbar, a hammer. I don't care what the hell you're able to use to protect yourself, a firearm, an attack dog, whatever it is you have to put between you and them, damn sure you need to use it.
Right.
Because they're forcing your hand. I mean, the whole thing about being compliant and just this is what you have insurance for, that's bullshit. That's literal bullshit. Your right to protect your property is God-given.
Right.
It's protected under the Constitution. You can't tell me you can't do enough anyway, in my mind, to prosecute somebody that's going to loot somebody.
Sure.
So we have laws in place that keep you from raising prices during times of national emergency.
Right.
Price gouging.
Mm-hmm.
We'll prosecute those guys heavily. We should do the same thing for people that are caught here. They should actually be a part of the cleanup and rebuilding of these people's properties. If you affected them that way, go back to old law, make them an indentured servant, and they pay off what they owe the state by working either for the county or for the neighborhood they were robbing from. And that I mean, I think that's fair.
When you're in the utility, or no matter what business that you're in, mm-hmm. you absorb whatever risks you will encounter in that particular business. This deal where we were talking about this earlier, where PG&E, it's in a headline that they have been, I can't remember if they were given permission or they basically said, we're basically going to pass on our cost for maintaining these right-of-ways on to the customer.
Which you thought was already built into the price anyway.
Yes.
Because you're paying for a service, and they should have done all the labor and overhead anyway.
Because everybody operates off a budget. So if you budget X amount of dollars for maintenance of a right of way, mm-hmm. if you experience like a high growth period during a calendar year, mm-hmm. where those crews that go out and cut those and clear those areas, mm-hmm. If you end up having to send them out 2 or 3 more times, what you realize is that, hey, you need to shift more money into that budget to pay for that kind of stuff.
Part of the problem in California is, part of the many problems with California is their ability to wisely spend money. It's unbelievable how utopian mindset creates these big problems. You have a governor that's been stoned forever.
Right.
This guy clearly exhibits all the problems, all the signs of bad judgment. He passed on a bill that would have funded a lot of that type of work you're talking about. Because I'm not for sure how this deal works out, but in many cases, when you negotiate to use federal land for transmission lines, pipelines, and right-of-ways, there's some kind of mutual agreement on who's going to maintain the right-of-ways. Mm-hmm. Okay? Because if you're transmitting power, you definitely don't want anything on or near those lines.
Sure.
But then you also have to protect the land that you're encroaching. A lot of places, if you're mining, you have to make it look better, mm-hmm. at the same as or better than you did before you started mining. So I got to think there's the same kind of thing going on.
You would think.
With utility companies, unless it was negotiated badly by the state of California. Mm-hmm. They're just now coming out of the Oroville Dam spillway problem.
Oh, yeah.
And they knew they've had that problem since the 60s when the dam was built. They refused to spend money over all these years. Now they're into like $1.5 billion in repair of the spillway, which they've completed on time. Kiewit did a really good job with that. And then now you've got they've had multiple forest fires in 2018, and they're into the billions in that end of it. Yet you still have the southern part, the strong, progressive part of LA that wants to fund a bunch of illegal alien activity at the cost of the taxpayer. And they've given up a lot of that money to pay for these dreamer programs or whatever kind of crazy shit they come up with.
Right.
When they should have been spending it on their infrastructure, roads, bridges, forestry, all this stuff. And so they have nobody to blame but themselves. Now, they're fighting about, well, it's a global warming issue.
Oh, my God,
You know,
yes.
I'm sick and tired of hearing that bullshit, because you can look at since the 1890s or whenever it is they started recording these things through the National Forest Service, you can log that there's going to be 5 major fires every year in the state of California. Bottom line. And they've done a really good job all the way up until the most recent decade of managing that.
Right.
Now, when you start taking your money and you start squandering your money for all these feel-good social programs, this is the shit you get.
What's funny is in a family in a family of 50 kids, California is that irresponsible kid that just cannot manage
Not
money,
one bit.
period.
Not one bit. Yeah, you give them $10 and they go buy $12 worth of comic books and ask you for the other $2.
Just retarded.
Yeah, it is. It's really sad how California is. But I mean, again, you know, coming back to seriousness here, we really feel bad for them in the sense that hardworking people are taking such losses.
Yeah.
You know, and it's really sad that there's a criminal element that's spun up that looks like they're going to make an opportunity out of it. But California is not alone. I mean, we have the same problems here in Texas. Okay? May not be fire related, okay? Because generally down here, we do protect our property. There's no doubt about it. I remember when we had Ike, we didn't have power for 19 days. But I had a generator, I had gas, I had ice. And my neighbor and I basically controlled the cul-de-sac. We parked our vehicles across the cul-de-sac, and we pulled 12-hour shifts watching the keeping people out. Because we had basically looters that had tried to come through the neighborhood. We had displaced people from Louisiana try to come through the neighborhood, and we would just basically turn them away. But we took that upon ourselves, and law enforcement was fine with it. I mean, when they pull up or when people want to leave, we only block the road at night.
So the thing about law enforcement being like that is, in a very brazen or in a informational way, they know that they know where their allies are.
Absolutely,
so, you know, here's somebody who's going to report when bad behavior is going on,
right? And
like for us, we've had some incidents here recently, like this most recent incident with the high school student at Lamar. High School.
Yeah.
That was to the comment that the guy made on that Friends post that you were talking about, where society is a lot more violent.
No, I said it was, and he said it wasn't.
Yeah,
and he's acting like everything's actually better. You're looking at it wrong. Then he started going down this crazy race road,
right?
Which to me is bullshit. Okay, violence is in everybody.
Yeah,
it's not just exclusive to any particular race or person.
What's funny, I kind of had this thought a few weeks back, is when you have somebody who's very antagonistic on the keyboard.
And I felt that's what he was being, and I just didn't play with it.
At some point, that antagonism, I guess if you become more and more confident and more brazen about the things that you're willing to type and say, at some point, I'm going to think that bravery, that pseudo bravery is going to bubble to the surface where you're actually going to act on stuff like that. Where there's a lot of things that I think, like you said, people are becoming more and more violent.
Oh yeah,
I think that there's a lot of that's happening now, particularly with this kid, because the details of his, I'm going to call it an execution, because based on the witness accounts.
Yeah, go through the story a little bit, because a lot of people might not know what we're talking about.
So it was, I think it happened a couple of days ago
at Lamar High School.
High School here in Houston, and it was two high school students who had been released from school at the end of the day. They're walking along, a boy and a girl, and some car pulled up, and whoever the shooter was this dude made sure that he was going to be the toughest to identify. They said he was wearing a hoodie. His face was covered up.
Right.
He was wearing gloves, so you could not
Tells me it's somebody they knew.
Yeah.
Is either somebody they knew or somebody known in their circles. Yeah.
And so not only did this person shoot this high school student, but when that person was down, he got out of the vehicle, walked up to him, and shot him several more times.
Yeah.
Almost as insurance or to confirm that,
he was definitely
this is what's going to happen, and I'm punctuating this,
Yeah.
and then I'm popping smoke.
Yeah.
So gets back in the car. Then later on, they find the car abandoned. Later on in the day, and it was a vehicle that had been stolen a day or so earlier. So the drawing the links to figure out can we get any closer to who this person was is no closer, but it was clearly right now. I think the local law enforcement's calling it gang related.
I'm sure it is. Yeah,
and I'm not going to go be facetious about it because a kid died here.
Yeah. Oh yeah, it's terrible. But unfortunately though, that's the world they play in. I mean, it's usually younger people. The only time you'll see a gang really act on somebody as older is if you interacted with them and crossed them or did something wrong.
Sure.
Or you were marked for a red test. You're basically an initiation. And your job is to go kill a old person or somebody. Remember they used to do the knockout game, and the older people were always the victim of the knockout game. So, we live with an element that's become more and more brazen. I remember as a kid, you had a group of guys in your town that took care of dudes like that. Gangs never made it where I grew up. It didn't happen. They'd come in. I'm not going to go into details, but they'd come in and they'd disappear really quick.
Yeah.
They were gone. And if they didn't leave, their stuff was burned and they were run out of town. That's just the way it was. And they didn't put up with that. But you live in a society now to where everybody thinks you can either rehabilitate or help these people, or they hide in such plain sight that you don't know it until it's too late. And it's like the whole Whataburger, the fight at the Whataburger. So what ends up happening is people take on this whole thug life mentality thing. And you see a lot of shit talking with these young kids nowadays.
It's like living in a rap video.
It basically is. And
no knock against rap, but it's the culture that's kind of portrayed in those videos where somebody kind of takes it off the screen.
Yeah, you're being a little kinder than I am on some of that, because I agree with you. Hip-hop music and rap music has its good, its bad, and its ugly.
Sure.
Unfortunately, what it does is it takes a person down to a mentality of, I don't give a shit.
Right.
Okay, I feel this way, I'm going to act out. And we live in an age now where everything gets posted on social media. So for them, they're auditioning for their 15 minutes of fame, hopefully turning it into a channel that turns into a revenue of some kind.
Right.
And so you see a lot of these obnoxious acting people that do these random acts, and you catch that one person that's not going to take that guy's shit.
Right.
And it turns violent and somebody ends up dying. But the whole gang thing is a real big problem, and it's going to continue to be a problem for a long time because it's huge, it's big. And we live in a time now to where you can turn on the TV and see entertainment glorifies it. Mm-hmm. Okay? Killing becomes wholesale. We watched the movie the other night, and I was like, "Holy cow, man! This guy." It was about who was it? It was about it was called Blitz with Jason Statham, and he was in London, and there was this guy going around killing cops, and he killed them with hammers. I mean, literally, they showed this guy pummeling people with a hammer, stomping a guy on the curb, shooting a cop in the face,
right?
And so this is entertainment. Okay, and this is stuff that you see more and more and more in movies. And regardless of what my little trolling friend thinks about crime, people don't imitate crime, I completely disagree with them. I think they do imitate crime. And I think that the less value you put on life and you show that it's just really, it becomes a surreal event.
Right.
And then when you're in a gang and you're told you're going to go do this or you're going to die and we're going to kill your family, it takes it to the next level.
Well, between, TV entertainment
Mm-hmm.
and YouTube, or just short clip videos, which I look at, what's the world's tolerance or the youth's tolerance to paying it or their attention span.
Right.
So I think influence wise, they probably get a lot of their influence more from short bursts of entertainment, like short videos that show some kind of bad behavior.
Or they get all jacked up on music and they get high and they go out and they actually make a foolish mistake.
Right.
That's basically something they probably wouldn't made sober.
And video games. And I hate that people
relate violence to it.
To video games.
I agree with you. It's the person, it's not the media for sure.
My deal is can that person differentiate between what's reality versus fantasy? Take
a soldier. Take a law enforcement officer.
Yeah.
Okay. So he has a firearm. He has the ability.
Right.
He has every chance to do the things.
They don't walk out of their house and pull their gun on their neighbor.
That's right. Yeah, they don't. Okay, because they use rational decision and cognitive processes to not do these things, right?
Or making rash decisions because you think somebody looked at you weird.
Well, it's like CHL, license to carry people.
Right.
So my biggest concern is because I do spend some time with people on certain things. I'm not an instructor. I'm more of a teacher. Kind of thing, and I do work with some friends and family and other people that ask about that, and the first thing I tell you is the fact that the right to carry is a very important right, and it's a sacred right, and it's only to save your life or the life of somebody that you love that's in imminent danger.
Yeah, and I'm glad you pumped the brakes on the instructor part, because
that
just opens up a whole other can of worms that we don't even want to go.
Yeah, well, I'll go there just a little bit. Here's what I'm going to go with. The whole thing about the instructor is I'm going to stand up here and you're going to imitate me.
Right.
That is a big mistake. Okay? That's is where people get in trouble. Because we live in an age where people seek to mimic. Okay? They really do. Hey, I've seen my favorite action star do this. We all did it as kids. Okay? Who didn't play Dirty Harry when they were a kid? Go ahead, punk, make my day. And we would always look for a way to work that line into something. And so people do become imitators. And what ends up happening is the reality between a real life situation and a play situation, some people don't know how to draw that line, and they will literally make that mistake. But when I work with people that are trying to become more proficient at it, I spend more time teaching control of self. I'm not endorsing anything other than just you need to control yourself, and you need to learn that anger is not a tool. Anger is something you need to master.
Yeah, and walking around with the mantra of doing bad things to bad people.
Yeah, this keeps coming up. This keeps creeping its ugly head out.
Just go ahead, throw yourself off a cliff.
Yeah, run from that person, because at the end of the day, you're just going to end up making a bad decision.
Right.
The whole thing is you are to get away from crime. Don't put yourself in a place where you can become a victim. That's really the thing. You got to use your gut instinct on this. If you're not supposed to be somewhere, don't be there. If you see something happening in that area that doesn't feel right, leave. Okay? Your firearm isn't a flag you wave at somebody and say, hey, you came at me, I'm going to use this. This is something you use to protect yourself in that finite last moment of self-defense.
Right.
And so we live, like I said, we live in a day and age now where people are saying, hey, I've got a gun and I'm going to shoot you. This is going back to the celebrities. See, I kind of struggle with the guy getting on TV saying that in that way. Okay?
Right.
Because what you basically have done is you've marked yourself with the person that has the capable intent of doing this. Okay? Yeah, it sounds cool. We all probably high five when we good for him. But at the end of the day, that's almost as irresponsible an action that I've seen anybody exercise. Because I'm not going to get on TV and say, hey, if you come on my yard, I'm going to kill you.
Well, and I had sort of a similar comment when I was talking to my cousins at the wedding.
Yeah,
I forget what even the comment was made, but I basically said I don't tell people that I'm a threat.
Right.
I'm just a guy having a beer.
Yeah.
The only time I need to be a threat is when you do something that makes me need to be one.
Right. No, I get it. I think that's where a lot of people get in trouble. We live in an age now where, and I hate to use the term because I really like this company, but everybody wears 511 tactical pants, and they wear a shirt that has the Punisher on it. It says "Kill them all, let God sort them out." I mean, I get it. It's cool, but we live in a day and age where you start marking yourself like that, and something does happen, and you are now arrested for it. You've set a tone that you're not going to be able to get out of. Because people are very judgmental, and they use this visual perception to say, hey, this guy was looking for trouble.
Right.
And that's where I really struggle with that. I think somebody made a good commentary about printing. Well, I don't want to print. And he goes, yeah, but you're wearing a T-shirt that basically says, I'm carrying a gun. I think
I know exactly.
Yeah, you know who I'm talking about.
Yes.
He's a great trainer, too. And he'll even tell you, I'm not an instructor. I'm a teacher.
Yeah, it's
Matt Graham. Yeah, he's incredible. He's a great instructor. And one of the most credible guys, I think, because he knows how to speak. Mm-hmm. And he knows how to relate to this.
Very well spoken.
And so, so we live in a day and age now to where, you really got to keep things close to your vest now. Because honestly, what if he made that commentary about somebody breaking into his house?
Right.
What if Corey Hart said, hey, break in my house again, see what you get? Okay? That's no different than a redneck from East Texas or South Texas or North Texas that says the same thing that ends up getting arrested. Because now you see social media taking action on people over this stuff.
And I'll take this to an extreme, and this is really not an extreme, because I've actually read accounts of this, is where, you'll have somebody who gets irritated because somebody blew their horn at them.
Yes.
Blow your horn at me one more time. And then all of a sudden, you've got this altercation that ensues at an intersection, and 50 freaking people just pulled their phone out to video you do something stupid.
Like the fight at the Whataburger in Clear Lake.
Yep.
Or the schoolgirls getting to a fight. They had a video the other day about these schoolgirls getting this fight.
That.
And it's like, come on, people. Just grow up and get your head out of your ass.